Says fear comes like a wind out of the desert, and it blows through you, and all you can do is let it blow itself out. And you really can do this. You just wait. Nothing seemed to be happening, and then your mind would drift off into kind of twilight. And then there were these strange, wraith-like beings, almost like cartoon ghosts is what they were like. And they were coming in through my window, each one bearing an open sheet of newsprint. And these ghostly pages of newsprint would settle in my lap, and I would be sort of bent forward like this, and I would begin reading these stories in this ectoplasmic media, and then I would snap out of it and say, what was that? Nothing's happening.
It's okay. It's okay. We're right here. We're right here, honey. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. It's okay. It's okay.
It's a set of techniques. No, you're quite right. It's a set of techniques. They're very simple, but if you don't know them, you're in deep, deep water. And breath control and not being afraid to articulate. We have some kind of taboo against sounding. But you know, I've started in the depths of hell singing to save my soul and managed to sing my way right through normality and right on into heaven, you know. It takes courage. And courage is not something that is demanded of us very much in the modern world.
Thank you for your input. I hope this input will be beneficial to you. I will be looking at Brassic, my music making process, and other things I've learnt through unexpected experiences and effects of my formal education years, working life and leisure life, that will form the backbone of the structure of the book and guide us through the chapters. I think I will begin with the time when I geared my mind to think in a publishing approach. This began with a feeling that I could write novels. And if honest, I would enjoy success as a novelist because it would not only provide sustenance, but also that it would be enriching to go through the process, so I'd rather do that than just have money on the plate. But what led me to this decision? I knew I would love to write songs with great, impactful, and meaningful lyrics, but did not have the aptitude to pick up the music theory, nor the confidence to deliver it. That being considered, I saw writing books as a way I could be in that area of creative work, but in a more secured and more accessible area.
We do this. You can do this. Make these things. And some of these little objects themselves begin to sing and make other objects. And this is all, what has happened is you have burst into the hall of the Mountain King. These are the demon artificers. These are the elves making their transdimensional toys. Why? Hell, who knows why? Just to have arrived there is accomplishment enough. You can spend a lifetime sorting out why. But they seem to be the vector at the end of time. They are an anticipation of who is waiting.
Well, it turned out that after my first, apparently serious attempt, I realised I did not have the right skills either. But that doesn't mean the process of me finding this out was not rewarding itself. It was akin to taking a very powerful drug, which was buttressed by speed reading, essay writing, and very limited sleep. It covered a period of intense revision that permeated into my dreams in a way that changed the structure of how I comprehended the grey cloud between sleep and reality, distinguished themselves from each other. Essentially, that grey cloud became bigger, and tangibility criteria got skewed in a way that I could not continue from that time without changing my approach to life in a way that assimilated my findings and continued with ongoing research. The novel writing would only stretch to short stories at best, as I did not have the memory to write concisely enough. But I also started to realise that my experience of life outside the box was so limited that I would only run up against barrier of my own ignorance, which I felt inevitably would lead to a lack of wit and sophistication. But the part that left the most powerful effect on me was walking around, living my life, and wondering how the first major story that I had started would take shape. The first chapter was amazing. Setting the scene and the atmosphere left me aching for more to the story.
And songs were sung, and this guy was there who nobody really knew. And he sang a song so amazing that the curing stopped, everything stopped.
But what story? I had no plan, so I had to formulate one based on where I had began. So with all the creative potential of the spoken word in story format, I realised I could write anything, but wanted to harness the area where the reader is easily convinced by the proximity to the possible in today's world, but also comfort in the joyride of a fictional kind of unimportance. So I started to think about scenarios where something else could be taking shape and forming behind the scenes that was believable. I found it easy to linger in the darker, more sinister territories of thought.
The phrase kept going through my head, curiosity is going to kill the cat.
This leads to a whole new consideration of the possibilities that could be. I was also coming to the final year of my degree course, which was a joint honours in development studies and sociology. The sociology element especially meant I had to improve and capitalitise on my grasp of the English
The phrase
language,
kept going through my head,
which would be
curiosity
used
is
to
going to
assess
kill
the
the cat.
legitimacy of various viewpoints which were being put forward at the time in set literature, and some that I would just come across in the university library, which was huge, and online in various mainly
Curiosity is going to kill the cat.
This was social thought delving back to the philosophical grounds and contribution of such famous academics
Some kind of reverse
Plato and
matrix.
Demosthenes, right up to present day influential
Maybe it had something to do with polarity of the electromagnetic field. I don't know what they were doing. Didn't design it.
Right.
And I guarantee you they were smarter than me.
One of the core principles in sociological thought and study at a higher education level was that you can't just say anything unless some respected academic had already said it. To me, it also demonstrated a huge difference in mindset across the whole spectrum of sociology, which basically covers anything from sociological
And I
point of view
guarantee you they were
to
smarter than
theory.
me.
I started to realise the importance of having the correct mindset, as it will shape your whole life in thought and behaviour and responses to others. Some of the views I found clearly psychotic, and often in a detrimental way, yet had to take their narrative seriously, because if this is really the way some people think, then the only way to interact with them effectively is by knowing and respecting their belief structure relating to the nature of reality itself. I also felt like I really needed to sit down and talk with these people to understand, but also save them from their delusions, but also to help me figure out if their academic stance was exploiting others' belief system by pretending that you believe something whilst actually being nothing more than a charlatan. So I wanted to bring truth to the world. I felt that the world I lived in had not even been acknowledged, let alone analysed. I had not been assimilated into the analysis. I started to realise that a significant factor in bringing about this situation was that on the street, language was miles away from the language of the academics. Because of this, the real world had not even properly been addressed, and so any theories had huge limitations simply because of the requirements of the fields of studies within the higher education system. Also, because it all had to be in written form to have any real clout, these schools of thought had not assimilated the vocal, phonetic elements of a narrative. Because of this, the school of thought would inevitably distort the real world. There was no real acknowledgement of these limitations, which kind of explained the flowery language and excessive delusions that peppered their way.
Tell me, what else should I have done? Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?
But then as I wandered through my life, I started to come up with possible backstory scenarios to every event. Thusly included thinking up all sorts of histories to people I was associating with, and in particular, those I was socialising with. I started to see it all as a film and add a creative story to the history of the scene. But also I started to reflect on the fact that there was so much of the moment that I.O. continually failed to seize. I felt like I was only half attempting to live my life for fear of getting new things wrong. I was also not expecting to stumble into sinister territories and accept that they could exist behind the scenes. I quickly realised that if I continued with the horror stories in my head then, I would end up going completely insane, with helplessness and defeat by callous people who think there's too many people in the world. Therefore, it is kind to call them like cattle. Or people that are obsessed with the clumsy assumption that life and people are
What do you plan
fundamentally
to do
only interested in money
with your
and or
one
power.
wild and precious?
If you believe that, then that says a lot about your particular choice of character. Or they're just hooked on and corrupted by throughout all of this.
In one of her poems, Mary Oliver describes kneeling prayer-like in a field, and she's contemplating with wonder a grasshopper who's gazing around with enormous, complicated eyes.
I started to realise that the potential energy provided to us in the spoken word is limitless if we can harness and manifest
What it came
its
away with
agency.
is impressions. That's how I think it talks to us. I guess we can't speak their language, so how else can you communicate? Well, we are beings of feelings. That's a whole new world, another way of communicating, like body language. Well, this is feelings and impressions.
Complicated eyes.
To have words that say for centuries to come, one has to imagine and operate in relation to a timeline spanning from the very conception, the beginning of time, to the very furthest possible future. To really understand this timeline requires one to conceive that all time is happening all of the time, and even the thoughts we think manifest into reality, into something akin to the area of thought of Murphy's Law, and the possibilities and existence of an ever-changing multiverse. So on the one hand, I have a mantra where everyone is chanting these songs,
see,
the one
just
story of
unbelievable.
existence. But simultaneously there is also endless worlds that are accessed through just one moment in time that expands time, as we return back to moment to learn that more information is still held within it for our memorizing to discover.
Unbelievable. Images you see are just images you see are just images you see are just
For me, the perfect demonstration is watching
Unbelievable.
Mandelbrot Zoom visualizations, where there is always more wonder to be revealed as size decreases and the layout of pattern creates always new patterns by repeating
Complicated
itself
eyes.
in newly ordered layers of a fundamental principle.
I can hear you think, great, tell me more. Where's the switch? How do we activate that stuff?
And by repeating all the thoughts, visualizations, and associations in one moment, I was able to see more clearly that the moment always offers us choice. Nothing is set in stone but our own will and choice, which we play out in our behaviour and actions. Although I could see all this choice inherent in every moment, I also came to, personally, that there was a misjoint between the thoughts and realizations that I was having and the actions I was taking. My body felt like a ghost. I also noticed that many people were also in a situation where their internal voice was compartmentalized and the outside presented would be a commercial and compromised, kind of satire-like version. This meant that a lot of people were still just trying to get from A to B. They had not been able to become genuine to themselves, lives and those around them. They had not been able to self-realise and self-actuate. Rather, they had been trained to self-contain and modify the truth of their character. They would flicker in an almost frozen inertia of cognitive dissonance, and faced with the entirety of the facts that the further moments would be revealing to them. So it's all based on harnessing mantras, which reveal more and more information the more the audio elements are twisted, and new meanings and associations reveal themselves throughout the different worlds in the process.
There's a library made of light. Not shelves, not paper, but frequencies woven through the skin of existence. Every creature, every cell is an antenna searching for resonance with the memory of what it already is. When your mind scatters, your signal fractures, and life feels random, disconnected, silent. But when you breathe to move in a single direction, not forced but remembered, and in that coherence the field reveals itself, not as a voice but as a recognition, not as knowledge but as remembering. Your memories are older than your body. Your intelligence existed before neurons. Your consciousness does not live inside you. You live inside it. You are not learning. You are reawakening.
And this is one of the points that's dear to me. I mean, they arrive in different orders each time. I think of history as a kind of mass psychedelic experience. And the drug is technology as a kind of mass psychedelic experience. And the drug is technology. Drug is technology. And as technology gets more and more perfected as a mirror of the human mind,
we have to understand how we lost ourselves.
perfected as a mirror of the human mind.
As long as you still experience the stars as something above you, you still lack a viewpoint of knowledge. You still lack a viewpoint of knowledge.
Dissolution has been underway at every level of Western civilization. And this is one of the points that's dear to me. I mean, they arrive in different orders each time. But I think of history as a kind of mass psychedelic experience. And the drug is technology. And as technology gets more and more perfected as a mirror of the human mind, the cultural experience becomes more and more hallucinatory. And for at least the past couple of 100 years, boundary dissolution has been underway at every level of Western civilization.